Welcome everyone, I'm Kingly Valence, and thanks for watching this Spore Galactic Adventure speedrun. This is the adventure, How to Become a Space Captain, completed in 0 seconds. And finishing up talking to all the other creatures nearby, and making our way through the final cutscene to bring up the in-game timer, and it shows we beat the adventure in exactly 0 seconds. And going back, looking even closer at the on-screen timer, Spore says this adventure was beaten instantly in 0 milliseconds as well. This adventure, Becoming a Space Captain, is normally a short tutorial adventure where we get beamed down and need to talk to a few different characters to learn how galactic adventures work. We need to get through these 6 different dialogue messages, and that will complete the adventure. And just running through, we can complete the adventure in just a few seconds. But how did we just beat this adventure in 0 milliseconds? We need to walk around this spaceport in order to reach these characters to start the dialogues. And for this captain, we can only activate the dialogue with these other characters from about this far away. Any further than this is out of our dialogue range, and we need to spend time walking over to them. However, this dialogue range is not constant, and is actually dependent on our captain's size. So if we can make our captain extremely large, then we can reach the dialogues further away than normal. However, we have previously seen that if we make a very large creature in the editor, by pushing another part really far away, Spore will scale down the entire creature in order for the creature to fit within an expected volume. This can result in a microscopic creature during creature stage and the later stages. However, Galactic Adventures does not scale down the captain, so however big the captain appears in the editor will be the actual size the captain will be when playing adventures. And in the captain editor, it's actually easier to use the accessory parts to extend our captain size instead of editing the captain's body. And this bolt part here, for example, is pretty easy to work with, but other accessory parts work as well. We can shrink and stack a couple of bolts so they all point the same direction. Then one at a time extend the bolt parts, and that will make a very large pole beyond the editor. This can be a bit tricky, but we can extend this as far as we want. Bringing this captain into the adventure, we saw this character was normally too far away for us to reach, but now we can activate the dialogue from way over here. And our stack of bolts doesn't need to be pointing directly at the other creature either. Our dialogue range is just based on our captain's radius, with our main body in the middle, so we can start a dialogue with any other creature within this range. And huge thanks to Error for explaining this stacking part strategy for expanding our captain. Now with our giant captain, we don't even need to move the captain to reach every dialogue. However, still getting exactly 0 milliseconds on this adventure isn't easy. And the final in-game timer only shows the final time in full seconds, unless we log in with an online Spore account to view the milliseconds. But to help see the milliseconds easier, we can use this mod made by Liskomato, which displays the in-game timer on screen with milliseconds during the adventure. Always being able to see the in-game time during the adventure is great, and we'll know if we need to reset the adventure if any part of the speedrun wasn't done properly. However, it's very important to know how the in-game timer works for Galactic Adventures, as the timer only counts when moving through the adventure following our captain, but pauses when the game is paused, and the timer pauses during dialogue screens. So right at the start of the adventure we can pause the game, which also pauses the timer. But we need to pause without any time passing on the in-game timer, which can be a bit tricky. We want to press escape to skip the intro cutscene, then pause immediately during the next frame of the game. Spore runs at 30 frames per second, giving us a 33 millisecond window to pause the game. And if we pause just right, no in-game time will be counted. From here, we need to unpause and select this creature to activate the first dialogue. But this time, both actions need to be done within 1 frame of the game. This can take a bit of practice, because this window will also be at most 33 milliseconds. But once we are in the dialogue, the timer is also paused. But to exit the dialogue works the same way as skipping the intro cutscene. We need to press escape to exit the dialogue, then pause on the next frame. What's especially tricky about this is if both actions are done too quickly and happen to land on the same frame, the pause won't be counted and the timer will run. We need to give just a bit of time for the next frame to roll around before pausing. And if everything is done correctly, we've just passed the first of 6 dialogues we need to complete for this adventure. In total, there are 12 frame-perfect actions needed to complete this adventure, to keep exactly 0 milliseconds on the timer. And this idea of using large captains to instantly speedrun adventures can also be applied to other missions as well. This speedrun of Adventure Town was also completed in 0 milliseconds by Matatic. And massive thanks to Matatic for letting me showcase their run for this video. Adventure Town is another tutorial adventure similar to Becoming a Space Captain, but it's a lot more difficult to beat in 0 milliseconds. Adventure Town has 7 dialogues, and a move to objective as well. Right at the start of Adventure Town, we need to reach this gate. Then we can talk to Mr. Mayor. While reaching the dialogues only depends on our captain's radius. Collecting objects works a bit differently and a bit strangely. For example, here we have a regular captain, and we need to collect this key on the ground. And we can just walk into the key to collect it, just like you'd expect. However, when using the stack of bolts on our captain, even though it appears to be touching the key isn't collected. For some strange reason, the hitbox to collect objects extends out the back of these extra parts. Here we can turn around slowly, and once the bolts are facing away from the key, it gets collected. Also good to know is this rotation ring of our captain is about the size of our hitbox to collect these objects, and this ring will expand with more bolts stacked as well. However, our reach for the dialogue extends out a bit further than the ring. But knowing this, our captain for Adventure Town needs to have the bolts stacked away from the gate when we get beamed down. So our stacked captain parts should take care of the gate objective, and from here, it should just be a matter of hitting 14 frame-perfect tricks to pass the 7 dialogues, right? Unfortunately, because the play area of Adventure Town is so large, we will still start out of range of the far creatures with dialogues. So during the run, Matatic also needed to incorporate a pause launch to get close enough to them. Performing the pause launch trick by first pausing, holding W for forward, and pressing space for jump, then unpausing, will launch our captain incredibly fast. And combining this with immediately starting a dialogue with another creature nearby will allow our captain to move a great distance during the dialogue without counting towards the timer. Getting all this done perfectly, Matatic was able to beat Adventure Town in 0 milliseconds on the in-game timer. And finally, the adventure Maxis After Dark can be completed in 0 milliseconds with only a single pause at the start. Maxis After Dark is a DLC adventure made by a Maxis staff member, Maxis Cactus. This adventure was made to show off what Maxis' office looks like, and the adventure objective is to collect 6 mice throughout the room. This adventure was actually the inspiration for Matatic to figure out how to beat all these adventures instantly. As we saw, Pelicanthor originally had the first place time with 0 milliseconds on the leaderboard. Pelicanthor has a lot of top times for the online leaderboard, and before assuming this time was fake or cheated, Matatic wanted to see if it was actually possible. And Matatic built another captain with 6 different stacks of parts on the captain to extend out to collect each of the 6 mice instantly. And with this captain, we're able to beat this adventure right as it starts. Building this captain was super tricky, especially with the backwards hitboxes to collect the mice. And that's how these 3 galactic adventures were beaten in no time at all. Again, massive thanks and congrats to Error and Matatic for figuring out how to instantly beat these adventures and letting me share these runs in this video. And I wonder what other more intricate adventures will be completed using this method in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Kingly Valence, and I'll see you next time.